Hi everyone, this is Caitlin Martin. I did my unit in my lessons on the rainbow fish, the story. If you haven't heard the story before, it's a great story to read with kids. I am a special education teacher in a kindergarten classroom, so I do a co-taught classroom, and we start at the beginning of the year with talking about friendships and how to be a good friend. And I thought, with being this is my fourth year, I've done this lesson a couple times and I've tweaked it every time, but I've never focused on technology as I have this time. But I think that this story works really well with students because you learn qualities of a good friend and things that a not so good friend, or what we would say a bad friend, would be. So just a little background. We did lessons. We would read the story and kids would talk about what they believe are qualities of a good friend, and we put them on the smart board, and kids would be able to use the smart board with, again, their 5, moving them into would they be good qualities or would they be bad qualities. After reading the story, we go into a worksheet that says I am a, and then have a blank, and they would have to say a good or bad friend. We push them to say good friend because all of them are 5. They are all good friends. They have to maybe work on some things because of sharing and things like that. But again, they're 5. So they would write in there a good friend, and they say, I'm a good friend because, and for them to be able to get to the point that we understand it, they would have to respond with something that would make sense. So saying something, I am a good friend because I share, or I'm a good friend because I help clean up, or things like that. After that, go back. And then for the last part of my unit plan, I made it so that students were making their own rainbow fish. So they would have different scales, and on each scale, they would, there'd be good or bad qualities, and they would have to decipher out of a good amount of qualities. So there would be a good amount of scales that kids can choose from, which we've made. And they choose if they think they have that quality. And then there's one, like if you look at the picture of the rainbow fish on this page, there's going to be like some metallic-y, very shiny scale that says, I am a good friend. And then this goes in the hallway to show people in our school that we are really good, make good friends and we have good qualities. And then kids can go outside and say, that's mine. I made that. That's, I have good qualities, and I am a good friend. So for the first question, do your tests yield appropriate evidence of the identified understandings? I believe so. My students had to give ideas of what they thought a good friend was before we even read the book. So that gave some background knowledge on kids, information they already knew. But going into actually doing the smartboard activity, we had to decipher between good and bad qualities. So kids would go up, they'd pick one. If it was a bad quality, we'd read it to them, and we'd have to think as a class or individually, is that a good thing to have or a good thing to be? That shows that they understand that sharing with friends is a good quality, for example, and taking things from friends is a bad quality, for example. So different things like that. Also going into the worksheets, with the worksheet, they had to be able to give a quality. And when we were differentiating it, there are some students that are a little bit lower, and like the low group would be the group that would be drawing a picture to explain how they could be a good friend. The middle group would be the group that is trying to come up with ideas, and then they copy off of the board. So they could say, I am a good friend because I share. Well, we would put because we'll already be on there, but they would put I share. And we would write that on the board, and they would copy that onto their paper because they gave us that idea. They just aren't able to write it. For the really high group, what we would do is they would say a good quality that they would have, and then we would have them use the sounds of the letters and the words to try to write the words the best they can. Well, are they going to spell everything the right way? No, we're not dealing with spelling. We are focusing on the fact that they understand what they're doing. And then the last thing that gives you, proves that they have understanding would be their actual fish that they make at the end with the scales and the good qualities. So I really do believe that we really hit that as best we could. Do the tasks involve a complex real-world application of identified knowledge, skills, and understandings? 100%. We focus on trying to make our kids better people for a long time down the road, like we're trying to make better people to join society and things like that. And even in kindergarten, you have to start. So we focused on ways to be a good friend. And during the week when we did this, we had activities that went with this, like the whole unit. And then when we go outside, we'd focus on being good friends and how we can help other people and how we can do things that are going to better everybody. So I really do think that we hit that. We talked with even our principal at one point about different reasons how we could be good friends with people. We had an assembly with the whole school talking about respect and being a good friend. So we made it a point that students understand that in life, you're not going to get anywhere if you're going to be somebody that's not doing the right things and things like that. Even as 5 years old, you have to be very basic with it, but they understood it, I believe. Are a variety of appropriate assessments formats used to provide the additional evidence of learning? I believe so. With the assessments, we went with their levels. So again, with the worksheet and even with the fish that we made at the end, with the worksheet, we set it up to have the different levels. There are students in my class that have special needs. They need a little bit more help. They might need some one-on-one help. They need things like that. But they might be the ones that are drawing the picture. There's some kids that are really high, so they're at the point that they're trying to sound out the letters and make the words on their own and trying their best. So I think that with the assessment that way, we're seeing that the kids understand the concept of what a good friend is, but we're also pushing them to be higher than they might be at that moment. So low, we're trying to get to be in the middle trying to get high, and high to even push higher. So it's something that we're really working on. We don't want to teach one thing and let it be verbatim, just one thing to every single student, because all students learn differently. I believe that students are all a blank slate, and we are the markers that we put on that blank slate to help them get the knowledge that they need for the rest of their lives. So we need to choose if we're going to be writing a permanent marker or dry erase. Are students given the opportunity to self-assess and reflect upon the learning and performance? For sure. We have conversations with our kids all the time. When we do the Smartboard activity, we made sure that the kids talked to their friends about it. We did it as a group. We said, is this a good idea? Would this be a good quality? And students would use sign language and say yes or no and be able to tell us what they think. And I think that we did, gave them a chance to assess if they're a good friend. And if they said, I don't know if I'm a good friend, because we did have a few people that said, I don't share as much as I should. I'm not as nice as I should be. And we talk about with a growth mindset, we say, well, maybe you're not where you want to be yet, but we know how we can fix it. Let's work on it together. So we gave them the time to think about it themselves, but also to talk with their friends. And it honestly made our classroom a lot closer as friends, as students. So I believe that we did a great job that way too. And that's the end of my unit. I loved the unit. I loved the class. I loved everything with this. I truly believe that this class, along with some of the other classes, has changed my views of how to make my lessons and my units and focusing on kids more about the assessments and things like that. So I'm glad I got to do it. I love this class, and I wish it could be a little bit longer. So thank you.